All right, we're live, folks. Welcome to another Thursday edition. Maybe it's the first Thursday edition. I don't know. I'm kind of lost in the sauce today. There's so much action going on in the veteran space, the military space, that it's hard to keep up. I almost scrapped my initial idea today. There's so much going on, but I wanted to chat to you today about, are we prescribing suicides? But before we do that, let's look at what's going on in veteran land today. So if this is your first time tuning in, drop virgin in the comments. And if this is your second, third, fourth, fifth time, drop veteran in the comments. I love having you here. Don't forget to hit the like button, smash subscribe, and turn on bell notifications to get notified when I do go live. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Morrow, and we're going to go on a little journey on what's going on in veteran land. So, the first thing that caught my attention for you folks that are still in the Canadian Armed Forces, oh man, the screw is getting tightened. The screw is getting tightened. Dress regs are back in effect. No more floppy pants. No more pink hair. Back to standards. I don't know exactly what the standards are going to look like, but I know they're getting tightened up. All the RSMs and CSMs around Canada are just waiting to drop the hammer. So, troops, get your shit wired tight because it's going to be epic, I think, the next few weeks or months once this policy comes back into effect. And rightly so, man. You can't have people just looking sloppy in uniform. That's the whole point. You got to look good, feel good, do good, show that you're a professional. So that's on the radar. So if you're in the CAF right now and you're listening, love to know, are you excited about this? Are you fired up to get your standards back? I know I'm not in, but I'm excited to see it. So although totally guilty, I always like breaking the rules. I like doing that like Patricia bottom button undone thing. That was kind of my thing. I like doing it. I thought it was cool. Had a Patricia officer instructed me back in the day. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to do that. And now moving on to some other stuff that's in the news. Friday, Terry. Okay. I have a question. Friday, Terry. What do the slashes mean? Drop it in the comments. I see it all the time. I don't know what it means. Is it internet lore? Can we put it here on the show? I don't know what's going on there, but please fill me in the comments. So pushback on the patriarchy. So this is on X. There's a new article by Noé Chartier in the Epoch Times. He's a great reporter. He covers a lot of veteran stuff, which is really appreciated. So there's a report that just came out that from a briefing note where the military leaders are like, it seems like they're starting to realize like they need to push back. Thanks, Friday Terry. Diagonal and fly. Oh, okay, cool. Oh man, I was going to talk about him today. Next week, Jeremy McKenzie. There's some interesting. There's an interesting post that was done about him. So to all you folks, Veterans for Freedom, I know you probably know a lot more than I do. I'm not tracking his story very well, but from what I can see, it's cuckoo bananas, and I'll probably do a little piece on it next week. So exclusive: military leaders push back on culture strategy that blames the patriarchy. The fact that we're even talking about this, the fact that this is even a news article blows my mind, but thus is Canada. So essentially, from the article, as Canada's military continues on a path to overhaul its culture, top leaders in the defense establishment have expressed concerns about the tone used in a new strategy paper guiding the change. So you guessed it, it talks about how white men are the problem, that other groups should be brought up to the level of white men. It's just a whole bunch of word salad and neo-Marxist nonsense. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole article, but the point of it bringing it up is that there's dress standards coming back. Some of the generals and staff are starting to get a little bit prickly about this stuff because it doesn't create a better military. If your policies help crush the armed forces and force people to leave, isn't that the exact opposite of what you want? There's a whole entity that's now in charge of culture, right? That's it's Jenny from the Block's domain. It's her portfolio. The I can't remember the name of it. Something on culture in the Canadian Armed Forces. Anyways, this is the unit that is in charge of creating these nonsensical documents. And if they don't improve your military capacity and fighting capacity, I don't understand why you're doing these things other than to destabilize and fulfill somebody else's political agenda. So, anyways, that's what's going on right now. And I just wanted to showcase something that I posted a few years ago on YouTube about what the troops actually want. What the troops actually want was actually reported on. Like, this is from a YouTube post that I did before I was I'm not gonna say before I was famous, before I had 5,000 subs. So literally I'm just like using my laptop computer camera here and talking about things that I'm seeing in the news media. So this is 2 years ago, I believe, where they conducted a survey, and the survey polled 9,000 troops. Like, it was a big ass survey, man. That's a lot. So if we can just roll that clip, and let's see what it's all about. So what the CAF, I shouldn't say we, I'm no longer a CAF member. What the CAF members actually want. Okay. We looked at Mark's article, awesome article. We need a mission. We just looked at the total health initiative here. So making sure you're healthy. Okay, cool. What do CAF members, like, from their mouths, what do they actually want? There was a survey done actually not too long ago by General Carignan. They consulted 9,000 service members. And they identified 4 main areas of the military's existing culture that need attention. The singular focus on successful missions. That's what Mark was talking about. What it means to be a warrior. That's what Mark was talking about. And the armed forces principle of leadership and teamwork. Oh, that's what Mark was talking about too. Wow. That's amazing. No mention of equity, no mention of health and fitness, no mention of in this article here. Actually, I should read it out to you that I'm getting this from. Is Canada's military to adopt gender neutral dress code as it moves to diversify ranks, and that was published on March 23rd, 2022. Okay, no mention of gender diversity, or this isn't what the troops want, man. They don't care. Like, okay, cool. Like, change the ranks to be more inclusive. Cool. That's not what's going to keep people in. It's having a fighting force that actually has a mission. It's right here. It's at the end of the article. Okay. These are the important things. Okay. Culture is important because it relates to morale. But in order to ensure that's the case, you need to have the mission in order to aim at, so that you can actually be an effective member of the team. Okay. We have to build warriors. Warriors are the essence of the entire military. Without them, we fall apart. Those warriors need to be fit. If they're not fit, they can't do their jobs when called upon. So yes, it's a holistic approach here. But the reason why I wanted to touch on these things was quite simple. Whoever this guy is, man, he's bang on. I mean, past Dave. All right. I like what this guy has to say. What do you think? Was this on point? This was from 2 years ago, I think, or maybe 3 years ago where I recorded. But is this on point with what you're thinking? That realistically speaking, military is kind of a reflection of our country, right? We need a direction. We need something to aim at. If you're not aiming at something, all this other gobbledygook stuff is really just not serving us. So I want to share that because it seems like the pendulum is shifting. It's swinging back to the other side. And all this talk about dress regs, well, it's gone back to the way it was. So that was a colossal waste of time because we didn't get any new people in. And now it seems like people are pushing back against all this weird Marxist stuff. And we're going back to good old fashioned war fighting. So that brings us to, oh, there we go. Yeah. Chief Professional Conduct and Culture. Cool. So this is the new department that was created that seems to be just shit in the bed all over the place, because I don't know if it has a real purpose in the military. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? To be honest, is this something that the CAF actually needs? I mean, from the outside looking in now, I think we just need to focus on making sure we have adequate levels of personnel that are fully trained to fight wars and the equipment to actually do so, and then worry about the other things. Because if you don't have the actual troops on the ground and the uh, equipment to help them get to the battle, then what's the point? Specific tasks. Okay, so what do we have highlighted here? I'm just going to blow this up so I can read it. Leading institutional efforts to develop a professional conduct and culture framework that holistically tackles all types of discrimination, harmful behavior, biases, and systemic barriers. Man, this sounds like I'm back at McGill. It's like a word salad of buzzwords. I don't know what that means. I hate seeing the word holistic. I hate using the word holistic. It drives me crazy, but it seems to have crept into the military culture. Who's driving this boat, man? If it's not this, is it the CD? Who's driving this? I want to know who drives this policy stuff. Is it straight from Trudeau? Who's making this shit happen, man? It's really confusing to me, but needless to say, it's part of the culture here, and you folks are helping, I guess, come to grips with the changes and having some yucks in the meantime. Moving on. So we now know what the troops actually want. And this is definitely something on the screen here that troops don't want and veterans don't want, which is not deeming injuries from a medical procedure in the calf, not deeming it service related. So this is a post I made from a fellow troop that is part of Catherine Christensen's lawsuit, part of the 329 that were abused and wrongfully dismissed from the Canadian Armed Forces. And this individual also is injured. Now, the letter here is from Veterans Affairs, and it's a decision letter, part of it, anyways. And it goes on to read that the individual 100% was injured by a medical procedure in the Canadian Armed Forces. That medical procedure caused a host of medical issues. However, the determination was this is not service related. What? Sorry, what? It was administered by military personnel in a military facility to a member of the military on military time. That was mandated by the military. But how is this not military related? Well, this is the Gordian knot that they've tied themselves up into because they've admitted that this medical procedure has caused serious issues in this document, clearly. Obviously, there was a risk, but now they can't admit that this was the risk that they imposed because the individual could have said no. What? What? Wow. All right. Well, more to follow when it comes to the lawsuit that Catherine has sent over to the Canadian Armed Forces. They have until August to make a decision. So stay tuned for that. It's going to get spicy in August, I think. So definitely be doing some follow up episodes here. So make sure to tune in when that drops. But I want to get into the meat of today's conversation right now, which is prescribing suicides. So this was something that was brought to my attention by Tim Jensen at the Grunstyle Foundation and Chief Brand Officer of Grunstyle. We had a great conversation last week on the podcast, and it's going to be dropping in a week or so. One of the main things we talked about was their initiative to change the paradigm around mental health. And this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, so that veterans, especially male veterans, can have a different approach to getting mentally well. The issue that we see, and a lot of us here can attest to it, is that the paradigm consists of, hey, I'm busted up, I need help. I go to the doctor prescribes me SSRIs and or some other psychoactive medication. And the plan is sit tight, wait out. Hopefully you get better. At least you won't get worse. And that paradigm is broken. And idea around this is that it seems like there's a potential link because we know that these drugs, one of the side effects is suicidal ideations, is that maybe, just maybe, prescribing these medications may be causing the radical increase in suicides in the veteran population. It's a wild idea. I know. But if that's the case, then we have to come up with a new solution. So me and Tim had a really good conversation as to what that could possibly be. I'll just read here from the actual post because it's really interesting. So the Grunstyle Foundation, a nonprofit committed to providing life-changing resources and experiences for veterans, service members, and their families, has announced a new campaign, a war cry for change, the revolution to reclaim veteran mental health. The initiative will address the crisis of overprescribing psychiatric drugs to military veterans and service members, the role this crisis has on the veteran suicide epidemic, and new path forward to support their mental health. Some statistics. The Grunstyle Foundation aims to shine a light on the issue of overprescribing psychotropic medications to our nation's veterans, which have been linked to veteran suicides. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs data shows that in 2019, more than 28% of veterans treated by the VA in that year were prescribed antidepressant medications, and 68% of veterans were prescribed psychiatric medications. This trend is only increasing. The majority of these medications include FDA box warnings about the increased risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. So it's time to start looking at things a little bit differently. And so I'm excited to share with you the conversation I had with Tim and what's coming down the pipe in order to start improving the overall health and mental health of veterans, not only just in the United States, but in Canada as well. One book that relates to this really well that I want to share with you is Lost Connections. This was a book that I listened to about 6 months ago and really opened my eyes to the world of antidepressants and their role in society these days. So this is written by Johan Hari, really good writer and journalist, investigative. And it's great because he actually had been taking SSRIs since the time he was a teenager. So he has a lot of experience and he researched as best as you can really well the links between SSRIs, suicide, and mental health improvement. He interviewed a ton of specialists, doctors, you name it. And at the end of the day, couldn't come to a conclusion of whether or not they're beneficial or not. That's a huge, big question mark. If we're prescribing these things, but they don't actually cause the desired effect, which is improvement in mental health, then why are we prescribing them at all? Especially if they have such a high risk, relatively speaking, to increase suicidal ideations. So you might want to check that out. I'll put the link here in the description once I'm done the video. You can go check it out on Amazon. So it's a great listen. And then that leads us to, well, what are some of the remedies? And I'd love to hear what your questions are around this, but I can tell you right now, the whole raison d'etre of what I do is to force a paradigm shift within the military and veteran world where we prioritize not just our mental health, but we also prioritize our physical health. And this is a study that was actually quoted even on Joe Rogan's podcast that exercise is more effective than medicines to manage mental health. So a University of South Australia research paper called for exercise to be a mainstay approach for managing depression, as a new study shows that physical activity is 1.5 times more effective than counseling or the leading medications. Wow. So there is a new paradigm here. I don't even know if it's a new paradigm. It's probably just the old paradigm, but to hear it and to absorb it takes some time because ultimately you want to get out of pain as quickly as possible. What's not said here is that this takes discipline. This takes motivation. This takes time to implement. And if you're in a bad way, you may want to have something just get the load off your shoulders right away. And I get that. But long term, I think this is the only way forward. You got to improve your body. You got to get moving in order to help your mind. A sound mind and a sound body is what the Greeks used to say. So this is an important concept that really needs to be hammered home. And that's why I do what I do, is that I'm not a doctor. Okay. I can't prescribe anything. Obviously, what do I know? But I do know fitness and I do know the effects it had on me. And that's why I like sharing as much as I learned on the podcast from interesting guests and just life experience. And so if that's something that you guys are, curious about pursuing more or wondering, oh, where do I even start? That's the point of these conversations. That's why I got the question here up on the screen. If you have any related questions, now it's the time to drop them in the comments, because this is where I want to connect with you guys. I want to make sure that you guys understand that I want to try as best as I can to get as much clarity on as many questions as possible. I can't answer them all, but I'll do my best to find an answer. And if you guys want even more in terms of support, like you actually want to get on a call, you can actually ask me live some questions. That's why I have my community set up. So it's the Veterans Getting Fit AF community. And that community is literally there for veterans to build a much more resilient body, mind, and spirit. And let's get into the comments. Oh, we got a lot of slashes here. A lot of a lot of 3 slashes. Now that I know what it is. Okay, cool. We got some Coke related comments. Great. Appreciate it. What a normal amount of time spent in the gym per day. All right. So Friday, Terry. You know what, man? The simple answer to that is no gym time, just 20 minutes of walking every day. You could do it in the gym or not. It really doesn't matter. If you're in the gym, it implies that you're likely training for something. And I always like defining, are you training or are you exercising? For me and anybody I work with, you have to define that every day you need to exercise for 20 minutes. And exercising just means that you really only need to be at like level 1 of intensity, like going for a walk. That's it. Gardening, playing with your kids. That's your level 1 of 20 minutes. That's bare minimum. And really, you should be doing about 8,000 steps. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and go to the gym, well, in my opinion, when you go to the gym, you're going to go train. There's weights there, there's machines there. Why do you want to do that? Well, you want to add some muscle mass, you want to do an event. Okay, well, let's get specific and let's do a certain amount of reps for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of, for a certain actual event, so that you can actually bound what you're doing. So you're not just randomly doing stuff. So you can actually see the results and aim at it. So it really depends on what your goal is. But if you want to just take the minimal effective dose, it's 20 minutes of activity a day. Ideally, you want to get around 8,000 steps, and then at least 1 heavy gym session per week. How long does that take? Really depends. But if you do either 3 to 5 exercises, 3 to 5 sets, with 3 to 5 reps, that's sufficient. And you do that once a week, you'll maintain muscle mass. You might even get stronger if you haven't been training for that long. So that's a typical simple protocol. And it really just revolves around if you're doing squats, cool, bench press, deadlift, shoulder press, nothing fancy. So hope that answers your question. Some dude, 1 hour. Yeah. I mean, like in terms of training, I mean, 1 hour is kind of arbitrary. You can get a great workout in 30 minutes if you kick up the intensity. Okay. So at the end of the day, you really just want to exert yourself. Okay. So good question. Great question. And in terms of, you know, why 8,000 steps is important, it's based off research. If you do 8,000 steps a day for the rest of your life, the chances of type 2 diabetes falls off a cliff. The chances of you becoming obese falls off a cliff. And it just increases your longevity. That's just from walking. Like that one thing. You don't need a coach for that. You just need to literally go outside and go for a walk. And I recommend you go outside because you get vitamin D. So that's the overwhelming majority of folks, is you just need to do the basics. If you're not doing the basics, and that's why I've changed to a model where I have a group and a community that we just encourage each other and help each other out. Because a lot of folks, they want to hire a coach like myself because they have really high ambitions, which is awesome. But if you don't have the fundamental base layer already installed where you're active every day, putting together a gym program or like a kettlebell program is not going to be effective because you're just not going to do it. You're not at that level yet. And it may be a hit to the ego. That's where, especially as dudes, if we were combat arms and you get told, hey, dude, just go for a 20-minute walk. No, don't put on a weight vest. No, no, no. I'm not. Don't go for a run. Just go for a walk. Could be a hit to the ego. I know it was for me. Just going for walks. I felt like I was an old man. But hey, man, I was recovering from a back injury. Still am. I had to get some weight off. My knees were not good. Okay, so walking it is. So if you can do that consistently every day, you'll be amazing long term. And then you can start layering in more training. No, we're not even talking about nutrition here, but just on the training side. That's about it. Um, and we got 818 folks in here. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in, folks. If you do have extra questions, don't be shy. Drop them in the comments here. I read all my comments. I know. Joe Rogan says don't. I read them. And if there's something here that can warrant a response, I will drop it into the comments and let you know what I think. So thanks, folks, for tuning in. Have a great Canada Day coming up on Monday. I know I'll be in Ottawa enjoying the festivities. It's been a while, but it's going to be fun. Unfortunately, if you're in Montreal, like I am, there's no Canada Day festivities this year. That's super sus. Super sus. Saint Jean Baptiste, no problem. Canada Day, on s'en calisse. Anyways, thus is the nature of being an Anglo in Quebec. So I'm going to Ottawa. But appreciate you tuning in, folks. And don't forget to train hard, fight easy. See you on the next one. And let's give a big thank you to young Mike behind the scenes. All right, guys. Peace.